All right, so welcome to another lesson on observations versus inferences. So it's going to be really important that we can distinguish between what an observation is and what an inference is. Remember that when we went over the scientific method, we talked about how an observation is something you can sense with your senses. Now we're going to talk about what an inference is and why it matters, why it's important. All right. Okay, so again, to review, an observation is something that can be seen or detected with your senses. So that's going to be your sight, smell, hearing, touching, all of those things, tasting. Those are all going to be something that you can observe with your senses. Now we have two types. The first type we're going to talk about is what's called a direct observation. And these are referring to things that you see. Okay, so only things that you see. So for instance, if you're in class and you look out the window, an observation could be you see the tree moving or you see kids outside. But again, a direct observation is only referring to things that we process visually, okay, or with our eyes. So let me circle that here. So here's another example. There's an American flag in the front of the classroom, okay? Indirect observations then are going to be observations that you're going to detect with your other senses. So that's going to be what you hear, what you smell, all those other ones. We call them indirect because these are our senses that we use secondarily, okay? So primary, we are visual creatures, we see things, those would be direct, and then we're processing stimuli are things in our environment, with our other senses as well, but we do rely on the vision the most, okay? So everything else is going to be an indirect observation. So what is an inference then? You may have heard the word before. We're going to define it as something that you assume to be true based on your observation and prior knowledge, okay? So for instance, if you're sitting in that classroom, you look out your window, you see the tree moving. Looking at the tree moving would be your observation, and what would you infer? Or what would you think is happening to make that branch move? Maybe the wind is blowing, maybe someone's standing on it, jumping around, making it move. That's what we call an inference, okay? So you're making sense of these observations based on what you have already experienced. It must be reasonable, okay? So it's a reasonable assumption. Would it be an inference if you saw that tree moving to infer that they were aliens with magic powers that were zapping the tree branch and it was making it move? Probably not, okay, because you probably haven't seen that before. So that wouldn't be a reasonable explanation to what you're observing, okay? So we wouldn't call that an inference. All right, so what are some inferences we can make if we observe that the American flag is in the front of the classroom? So your assignment is I actually want you to add these onto your notes somewhere. So on your Cornell notes, I want you to write inferences about the American flag, and then we're going to talk about those in class tomorrow. Okay, so make sure you have those ready to go because I'll be calling on people randomly and we'll go through people's inferences based on that observation. All right, so make sure you write them down and also do a little summary. I know this wasn't a very long presentation, so your summary doesn't have to be very long, just a couple of words, maybe describing the difference between an observation and an inference. That would be a good summary, okay? And I'm going to stamp those summaries and then we'll talk about the inferences we can make if we observe an American flag at the front of the classroom. Okay, so this was really short today, not too much, right? And we'll see you in class tomorrow. All right, bye.